Hello, yes, welcome back to Ramswriter Podcast. I'm your host, Simon, and today I'm joined by my special guest, Richard Cusack from the Derby Telegraph. Richard, welcome to the show. Are you well?
Thanks a lot, Simon. Yeah, really well, mate, especially after today. Just fantastic.
Yeah, it was. I think all round, obviously Louie Sibley is the one that everyone's going to talk about, but I think just all round as a performance, from not playing for 104 days to produce something like that, it was just, you couldn't have asked for much more, really, could you?
No, absolutely not. I mean, we'll obviously get into a bit more detail later on, but I looking through Steve Nicholson's player ratings, none of them are really below 7. I think there might have been a couple of 7.5s, 8s, and that just illustrated to me why we were both so impressed at how the players had come back and just how solid they all were collectively. I can't think of a player who might have struggled. Perhaps the players who were lacking for fitness, maybe, but even that wasn't really sort of from a technical standpoint. It was more just because they hadn't played.
Yeah, I think one of them. I think Dwayne Holmes struggled a little bit.
Yeah.
I think he admitted that himself actually on Twitter afterwards. He said, "Next time I'll put my boots on the right feet." I think he did maybe struggle, but again he played him out wide. We'll talk about team selection. Obviously, what did you think? What did you make of it? We had Hamer in goal. The normal back four: Forsyth, Clark, Wisdom, Bogle, 2 olders, Bird and Rooney, Lawrence, Sibley, Holmes on the right, and then Waghorn up front. What did you make of that? Were you surprised by it, or?
The thing is, it's funny because when the team first came out, I was really surprised to see Waghorn start up front after how well we'd seen Martin play at Wednesday with the 3 assists, and obviously with the 2 goals against Blackburn, as well in March. I mean, it's funny, isn't it? Because you're almost writing a sentence of Cocky made X amount of changes from last time out, and you think, hang on a minute, last time out was actually 100 odd days ago. But I'm always wary of making judgments before the game, purely because when Cocky came out and said, didn't he, that the reason why he picked Waghorn was because him and Louie Sibley had linked up so well in training during the time off, so that kind of made a bit more sense. But I was surprised to see Jason Knight drop out onto the bench, and I was also surprised to see Holmes start on the wing. I can't remember too many times I've seen Dwayne come off the wing many times in a Derby shirt. So no, I was surprised a little bit, but obviously it's worked wonders.
Yeah, I mean, I think because I put a team out and I didn't have Holmes in the side. I had Waghorn on the wing and Martin up front, and to be honest, I think it was maybe Cocker thought, well, I need to get them both in the side. I think maybe that was the choice, and Martin obviously dropping out. Interesting to see Huddleston wasn't even in the squad, considering where we are with his contract. But yeah, Martin was. So maybe we could be reading into too much. I'm not sure. So, but overall, I think obviously the team selection for me was I wanted Sibley in the team. I think would have been very harsh to drop him after his performances against Manchester United and then Blackburn, obviously, albeit back in March. But I think we couldn't afford to drop him, really. And he proved today, 3 goals. It says it all. So it didn't start all too well. In saying that, I mean, the game-wise itself, I think we dominated possession.
We did, but I saw a tweet from Ollie from a Derby County blog early on saying we've had a lot of the ball, but we know Gary Rowett doesn't mind that.
No.
More than happy for the opposition to have the ball, and then they'll pounce when they can. And obviously, we saw that with Matt Smith. I mean, it's funny, isn't it? You look at the job he did against Forest, the demolition job on their defenders, and then 15 minutes in, it's almost like an identikit Matt Smith goal. That sort of centre forward loves to get the jump quite literally on the defenders at the back post, and that was a bit too soft for me, that first goal.
Yeah, it was. I think, obviously, breaking down the left-hand side, and there was no sort of urgency. I did feel there was enough urgency from the likes of Bogle and Holmes to get back and stop the cross to begin with, but then it just seemed very soft and very simple to sling it to the back post and let Matt Smith. It wasn't a free header, but there was nothing Forsyth could do about him. Could his position have been a little bit better? Maybe if you're picking his.
I just think he got caught on the hop. He was just flat-footed, wasn't he? He just didn't have the momentum to be able to get up and try and challenge. He just got caught quite literally flat-footed.
Yeah, and that was the case really. And then, but again, the thing was we didn't let our heads drop. We carried on playing it, but playing the ball around. dominating possession. And then it was quite funny, actually, because obviously we had a water break, didn't we? About 23 minutes, I think it was.
Yeah.
I tweeted at the time saying, what is the point of the water break? For me, it just felt a bit too pre-season-like. But obviously we finished. We had the water break, come back on, and wow, Louie Sibley took his goal unbelievably well. You know, what I noticed about Sibley was he wasn't scared to get forward and get in amongst it, but he'd just drop into a little pocket of space, and that's how he got his goal. You know, great work from Bogle, little ball into Sibley's feet, and the skill and strength he showed to hold off the two defenders and stick it in the top corner. You can't ask for much more.
You really can't. It's funny you mentioned the water break, Simon, because I don't know if anybody who's listening or watching this, or even you, saw the Man United game on Friday night. The water breaks had a massive effect in that Spurs game. Almost, it seemed to a chance more than anything for a manager to reinforce his sort of game plan on the players, and a chance for them to take stock and say, hang on a minute, we're not doing this. We've seen this from the first 20 minutes. Why don't you try and get in here, all the rest of it? I don't know how much of an effect that had, but obviously something must have happened. But I think with regarding Sibley, you know, we saw against United back in March. I mean, wow, you know, how long is that? Over 3 months ago. It's crazy. Yeah. You know, that chance he had where he sort of rafts the shot past in front of the north stand. He had that shot, didn't he? That went really close.
Yes.
That was similar. That was similar to his goal, where he finds that pocket of space. And I was really impressed with Louis, because the first sort of 10, 15 minutes, he opened up his body. He was already showing so much confidence.
Yeah.
Nearly 5-10 minutes in, switching play from the centre out to the left. And he looked really confident to pick up the space. And you can see when when the likes of Holmes and Rooney and Bird had the ball and they were looking for movement up front, Sibley was dragging players out. He was moving here, there and everywhere. He's a midfielder's dream, isn't he? A centre midfielder, when you're looking to play the ball into someone and looking for a striker to, you know, it was so busy in there. So after about 10, 15 minutes, it looked like he had already got the defenders, the centre-backs' numbers, and he was pulling them apart. And so it told with the first goal, which was just, again, one thing about Louis, I think we'll see soon, is that he can turn a game. Yeah. Just like he did with Blackburn. You know, after 10, 15 minutes against Blackburn, they had a couple of chances. We were probably fortunate not to be one goal down. Yeah. Against Blackburn.
Yeah, Brereton missed, didn't he, from 6 yards?
Did someone put one over from a corner as well? Yeah, dropped to them, I think. Something like that. Yeah. So and that's exactly what he did today against Millwall. When you go 1-0 down to a Gary Rowett team, you're thinking, crikey, it's going to be a long afternoon. That's what happened in the reverse game, obviously. Yeah.
I generally thought that was it. We were going to, because we'd not really threatened before the goal, albeit dominated possession, had a lot, you know, saw a lot of the ball. We just couldn't seem to break down Millwall's dogged defence. And you're just thinking, here we go again. It's London as well. Yeah. On 1-0 down to an early goal, you think, it's typical, isn't it? But obviously, we regrouped, got the equaliser, and then I think for the rest of that first half, we were on top there. I think Millwall had a chance, didn't they, right at the end of the first half, with Hamer produced a great save.
Yes, was that with the ball over the top?
Yeah, he got, I can't remember his name, number 7, wasn't it? Wallace.
That's it.
I think it was. He got between our centre-backs, Clark and Wisdom. And you're thinking, here we go, goal here. And Hamer's made a great save, in fairness. Stood tall, stayed up for a long time. And then, you know, if that goes in there right before the break, I think you're looking at a different story, because they just sit back then in the second half. So we move on to the second half then, which was, I think, the first 10 minutes, Millwall absolutely, it was like a roles reversed. It was Derby who sort of decided we're going to sit back and let Millwall come on to us.
They were. So I thought at half time, please just come out and show that same momentum that you've shown from after Sibley had scored, where you've got your tempo, your build-up play. You're passing it around really well. You're looking lively. You're looking like you're going to do something. There's a couple of players getting brave, playing passes with the outside of the foot. Bogle on the right-hand side. You know, Rooney was zipping it into players and stuff. So you're thinking, you've got the verve, you've got the tempo. This is brilliant. And yeah, like you say, it's just kind of the worst, exactly what you don't want to happen. And I think it's happened too many times this season, where after half-time, we've just come out and looked very sluggish.
Yeah, and it reminded me of Huddersfield in the first game of the season, because that first half we absolutely battered them. Obviously, we got the 2-goal lead, but then the second half we sat back and I thought, we're not repeating this, are we? And I thought, surely, you know, fitness levels wise, maybe that plays a factor in it. but he just sort of thought, oh, and then obviously we break again, and Sibley scores again, a lovely move. Max Bird this time dictating things, and I thought he did that really well. He may not get as much a mention today as he deserves, because I think he dictated that role in centre, that holding role, very well indeed today. I think Rooney looked a bit off the pace. And Max Bird, found Waghorn and obviously found Sibley, and Sibley's not going to miss from there. And it was weird because I don't know if you saw the goal Sibley scored against Stoke. It was a very, very similar goal with Waghorn laying it through to Sibley. So maybe that
I actually hadn't seen the video because I was off. I've just come back to this. I hadn't seen the video because I've been off social media and stuff. So I haven't seen that. But that is interesting. That is interesting you say that, because it all comes back to what Cocu said afterwards about the link-up play.
Yeah.
And that's what I love to see about teams, when you can see a move that's so clearly executed. And it just shows the work we do on the training pitch, when it's bearing fruit. There's no better sight for a coach as well, obviously, or a player or fan to see something like that come off. And I think for Louis, he could have had 4 or 5 goals today.
Yeah, he did, because he missed one not long just before that, didn't he? No, sorry, just after that I think it was, where he cut inside 2 defenders and actually put it over the bar, didn't he? And then again in the
put over with his right foot, didn't he? Is that the one you're on about, with his right foot? And then there was another, where he did he blaze over again twice?
Yeah, he blazed over again. But his confidence was there though the whole game. There was a free kick. We cut out a short goal kick, I think it was, and see, he sees the keeper off his line and he tries to lob him from 30. He messed it up. But to have the confidence to do that,
exactly.
What is he, 18?
Yeah, we're talking about a player who scored his first goal. Yeah, with the sort of venom he did and the sort of equality on that drive. I mean, this is what you're talking about. He's talking about a player who isn't afraid to go into players either and tackle them. I mean, there are a lot of comparisons between Louis and Will Hughes, but I think it might just be because they're both lads who've come through the academy, who've got blonde hair and the left foot.
Yeah.
I think Louis has a lot more aggressiveness to his game. I also think he's also probably got a lot more. A few more goals as well. That
was the point, because there is obviously a lot of comparison, and I can see why. Why the way obviously he runs at players, and he can obviously pass the ball, but I think he has more to his finish. His end product's better than Will Hughes. Will Hughes, I think, was more probably just a central midfielder, maybe a holder but needed a bit more aggression. But yeah, Louie Sibley, he's sort of the whole package. He can give you that aggression in the tackle. He can spray balls around. He can run at defenders and he can put the ball in the back of the net, and that's you can't ask for much more than that, really. And then obviously, I think Cocu, after the second goal, Cocu rang the changes as well. He brought on Curtis Davis, took off Bogle. He brought Shinnie on as well, didn't he?
He brought Evans on as well.
Yeah, he brought Evans on.
He brought Bird off. Did he bring Waggy off as well?
Yeah, he brought Waggy off and put Rooney up top.
So many substitutions.
I know. That was the sort of like last 15 minutes or so. It just seemed to be camp with substitutions. It really slowed the game down really badly. And I think all sort of the ebb and flow back and forth, it just sort of took it out of it. But the substitutes work. Obviously, this time in 90th minute, Chris Martin's got the ball on the wing, and this shows the level of fitness, the third goal that we're at, because Forsyth's obviously busting a gut to get forward. Martin, a great little ball to Forsyth. And Forsyth, Louie Sibley there, in the 90th minute, he's there, standing alone at the edge of the penalty box and picks up the ball. And he scuffed the shot, but it went in. And you're thinking, that's it, game over now, 3-1.
That's the thing. And I know he was in front of goal and stuff, but like, how many other players would be thinking, let's just get, I know it wasn't very, very late. It was the last sort of second to last minute, wasn't it? But how many other players would have thought, just get it in the corner. They thought, let's go and kill this game. Let's just go and kill it. Let's get it done.
Yeah, and he took up a great position in all fairness, and again, because I was sort of thinking that just get it in the corner, just play the time out. But no, they wanted goals, and considering we didn't score, was it something like for 7 games on the trot? Any away goals? Now we've scored.
That sort of stretch between like September and December, wasn't it, where we just went and got battered 3-0 everywhere we went.
And now we've scored, obviously, 3 against Blackburn, 3 against Sheffield Wednesday, and 3 against Millwall. There was 3 against Swansea as well.
Yeah, 3 against Swansea. Just we are starting to we're starting to sort of score a lot of goals, but I think with Louie in the team, and I do get very giddy, and I do get very sort of I get very high after wins. I know that, but I think with Louie, that he's like that player you play against at five-a-side where he just pops up and scores. You're thinking, how's he done that? Like,
yeah.
He just the ball. It's one of them players that the ball just seems to end up with him, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And you're not sure why, you're not sure how, but the ball just ends up with him, and it's just, he's got a knack. He really has got a knack for it.
But I mean, yeah. But Derby being Derby gives a bit of a fright late on as well. There's a bit of a mix-up, I think. Was it between Lawrence and Forsyth, and they got down the right-hand side, and then was it Bod Varson who stuck it away from 6 yards out? It was. I
think someone had given it Bod Varson, then Mahoney ended up with it on Google. Bod Varson got given it on Sky again. I don't know what was going on, but Clark just seemed to completely spoon his clearance, didn't he?
Yeah, and I think they'd all thought, last couple of minutes we're 3-1 up. I think they just switched off. And I think that's where obviously the match fitness thing side perhaps comes into play, is the fact that they just turned off slightly and just let Millwall sort of get back into the game. But no, we held it on in 3-2 winners. And you know what? I did not expect that from the first game back from 104 days away. And what really impressed me about was the fact that obviously in Koku's press conference on Thursday, he said, yeah, playoffs is a goal, but he wants to maintain the level of performance that we had before the break. For me, I think they maybe not consistently, but not for 90 minutes, but they did that for the majority of that game. They showed exactly how Koku wants to play football, and they show how effective it can be and it will be. But we've got to give obviously credit to Louie Sibley. But what do you do now? Because he's now made a name for himself. He's going to be all over social media. Everyone's going to know his name now. What do Derby do? I mean, I think he's still on a youth contract, isn't he?
I don't think he's signed a new deal recently. He would have known about that. I think Jason Knight and Morgan Whittaker did, didn't they?
Yes, they did, yeah. But he didn't. So, we're talking Martin and Huddleston contracts. We need to talk a Louie Sibley one, and we need to also, I think we need to be smart here and be like Birmingham. Someone obviously you'll know about, and what they've done with Jude Bellingham and put a big price tag on his head, because we cannot afford to lose Louie Sibley like we did Will Hughes, I suppose, for 4 million. Someone's got to come in, and someone's got to make a huge offer to take him off our hands.
I think it's some sort of a similar situation with Bellingham being ideal. I mean, I know that he's obviously been doing the business he's played a lot of games this season, and obviously he's got teams sniffing around him. But I think with Louie Sibley, Derby need to get him signed down to a long-term contract.
Yeah.
And I think, and I'm not saying Jason Knight, players like Jason Knight and Jeff Hendrick who've come from Ireland or further apart. I know Jaden Bogle's from Reading, I think, isn't he? Joined from Swindon. So Jada Mitchell-Lawson and Jamal Hector-Ingram there from further afield. I'm not saying they wouldn't be saying the same thing, but I think with Louie Sibley, the advantage that we've got is obviously that we're his boyhood club.
Yeah.
He's said it, on 2 or 3 interviews now, hasn't he? Where he's come out and said, "This is my dream to play and to score for this club." So I think that's the advantage we have.
Yeah.
In that sense, so we've got him local. We've got him as a supporter. He knows what it means. I just think we've got to. Again, it's like all things, isn't it? There was talk about Bogle leaving. That never materialised. I think there was genuine interest from teams like Burnley or Brighton.
Yeah.
Those lower Premier League teams who buy from the best players in the Championship, that sort of market.
Yeah, I think AC Milan were tempted as well.
Yeah, they had even interest in Anthony Robinson and Matty Cash. It was a really bizarre situation. Looking at who's the best sort of young British fullback coming through the ranks, and you sort of ticked up on a little transfer shortlist. But no, I think we need to obviously open talks with Louie. I mean, I'd be surprised if there wasn't some sort of informal talks being held over the break. If there wasn't, then I'd be very surprised. And I don't know if there has or if there hasn't, but there ought to have been. Yeah.
I totally agree. Because I think when you're signing up the likes of Jason Knight and Morgan Whittaker, who obviously have deserved their contracts for the senior levels, you then got to start looking at going, okay, Louie Sibley's come in, he's played a blinder against Man United, probably might have a standout player there. He's then coming against Blackburn, scored his first goal for the club, and then he's gone and scored a hat-trick today. You know, I've been talking about Louie Sibley since I first saw him against, I think it was Coventry in a pre-season friendly under, I believe it was Frank Lampard. And then obviously I've watched him in the academy and how he's progressed. And every time I've seen him, he's just been, you know, he's stood out, you know, for the under-23s. And I think as well, you know, it's shown since he's moved to the first team, the under-23s have maybe seen their point that, you know, they're sort of games like results and whatnot go different ways, you know. And you can tell he's a big loss to them. But he's come in and he's suited. He's just fitted straight in, and he's not looked out of place. You know, you're not looking at him going, "Well, he's only a young kid, isn't he?" You're looking at him going, "Wow, who is this guy?" Because he's something special.
I was just shortly blind, Simon. Sorry.
It's all right.
Excuse me. I look back to, you know, the pre-season friendly against Girona.
Yes.
Earlier on, and I think I'm right in saying this. I'd hate to be wrong, but didn't the lad do you remember the tackle he put in on that play?
Yeah, on the left-hand side.
I think he ruptured his ligaments.
Really?
I think so. I'm pretty sure it was a serious injury. So that was when I saw Louis clatter into him. I thought, crikey, I think he's not bothered, is he? You know.
But that was a fair tackle. But then he picks up the ball and he sprints, you know, down the left wing, puts the ball in the box.
Precisely, exactly. I know. I'm not saying but you know, he tackled him with some vigor and some force, and he won the ball. He got up and he carried on, and he just goes to show that he's really not fussed.
No, and I think we saw that today. But that may be one thing he might just have to tone down just a little bit. Is sometimes his tackle. I think there was I think Romeo was trying to break for Millwall, and he put in a little bit of a naughty one. Just left a little bit on him, and I think he got booked as well. But that's a game, you know, that's Louis' game. And I think someone like Wayne Rooney, who was that sort of player, was aggressive in the tackle, will probably be, you know, a good person for him to talk to and learn off about how just to, make your tackles, be aggressive, but do it in a controlled way, you know. And then we could talk for ages about Louie Sibley and how he's progressed. And, you know, and you can't believe that, you know, he's 18 years old. The way he's playing, he feels like a seasoned pro, and for me, he's someone that maybe could go abroad. You know, no doubt if he carries on how he's going, he'll be an England player. You know, I think some people were maybe talking and saying he's similar to Jack Grealish.
Yeah, I've been in that camp a little bit. I've said that a couple of times. And only what do you think he's not, or do you think he is? No,
I think, you know, I'm not Grealish's biggest fan just because of the way he dies. But as a footballer, if you watch him as a footballer and not as a fan, you can see that how talented Grealish is. If he gets rid of his diving.
I'm the same. I'm not the biggest fan of the sort of like the low sort of socks and the shin pads out and the look at me kind of thing. But I think if you're talking about a purely playing standpoint, then what he does is he drives at defenders. He takes players on. The other night, he played well against Sheffield United, and he sort of picks up the ball. He takes players on. He brings players out of position, and what he does is he sets. You can see how he's a heartbeat in that Villa team, and that's why I think Sibley's the same, because Sibley's the same in the sense that he drives forward, he picks up the ball, and he commits players. He brings players out, and it frees up others. Yeah. So it's all right. Sort of people saying, "Oh well, Reading will man mark Louis next week." Well, great. I mean, number one, you can try and man mark him. Right, might not work. Number two, that frees up players like Dwayne, Wayne Rooney, Max Bird, Lawrence, Waggle, and anybody else, and we know they are good players in their own right. So people say Sibley's going to become Mark Man. Well, let's try it.
Well, that's the thing. You know, Millwall today. You saw they put 2 on Wayne Rooney every time. Well, that played into our hands. It played into Sibley's hands. Because he was free. But in the second half, they put more bodies around Sibley. They realised he was a threat. But for him, you know, he's not bothered about being kicked around. He just gets back up and cracks on with it. And, you know, that you don't see that much nowadays in the modern day footballer. You know, people don't like being kicked around. They're all rolling around. He doesn't. He just pick himself up and crack on. And I think, you know, again, it's another thing that he possesses is just that will and drive. For me, he plays like he's just playing with his mates in the school park or something like that. just the way he goes about his business.
You do hear that soundbite a lot from young players, and you think, "Oh, are we just saying it?" That I can see what you mean. He genuinely just looks so at home, doesn't he? And with the ball at his feet.
Yeah, and he's walked into a situation where, it's his home club, and he's been given that opportunity. And you're thinking, this is a team that, they've been playoff contenders for the past 5-6 seasons. The fans expect big things, and he's just walked in and gone, "Yeah, don't bother me. I'm just going to play my own game." And that's, for me, that's what you want. Now, just mentioning playoffs. Now, I've been a big sort of, I reckon we can make the playoffs, but that's speaking with my heart.
Yeah.
When I think about it in my head, I think looking at the run in, maybe not. However, today, getting them 3 points today, the results around us going our way.
Yeah, did Preston concede a late equaliser?
Yeah, Preston did. I think Preston drew Bristol. Did they lose?
They lost 3-1 at Blackburn, didn't they?
Yes.
Good team, Blackburn. Good team, and I was really surprised at how poorly they played against us, actually.
Yeah. But obviously, that was it. That was always going to be the cliche, was obviously Blackburn and Bristol. You'd want a draw, but either way. But now you look at that table, and I think from 7th down, there's about everyone's within 3 points. We're only 7 points off our local rivals. Obviously.
I said that to a couple of mates earlier. I said Forest are having such a good season, apparently, and we're having such a poor one. But we could we could make it within 3 or 4 points by the time we play them in a couple of weeks' time.
Exactly, and all of a sudden, this is it. If we can continue this momentum and continue scoring goals like we are, the only criticism today, I think, would be the defending was at times a bit shaky. But I think we played such a high line that we were susceptible to the counter attack, and we basically fell into Gary Rowett's hands. That's what he wants to do. We'll hit with the likes of Romeo, a quick player, Wallace again. We'll hit them on the break, but he must just say to Matt Smith, just go get yourself in the box, because that is literally
You saw it against Forest, didn't you?
Yeah.
So that was 3 goals more or less came. I know one of them was a fluky deflection off a player's shot, but the other 2 were spot exactly what you'd expect.
Yeah, and you see why he wants someone like Mason Bennett in his squad, because he possesses a bit of pace where you can counter attack. So exactly. It makes sense. So, but I think today a well-earned victory. Wasn't expecting that at all. I thought it'd be maybe a 1-0 or a 0-0 draw perhaps. But no, for me, playoffs. Do we talk about the playoffs? Can we make it?
See, I kind of said, didn't I? I put a tweet out about 2-3 weeks ago now, and Ollie from the Derby County blog sort of did a bit of the stats, and quite rightly, I wouldn't say put me in the place, but just tempered a bit of the expectation, because the average is around 74, 75 points. Now, I think today's result taking us up to 54.
54, yeah.
So we need another 21 points on average to make it from another 8 games, which is up in it, win all of them bar 1. But,
exactly.
But this, if anything's taught me about this season and the last few months in general, is it's not always, stuff isn't always done on averages, is it?
No.
This season could just be, there are so many anomalies and so many sort of factors that are just making this season one that's just nothing like we've ever seen before. So we've got some tough few games.
Yeah.
But we are playing that well, aren't we?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you take us back to December. I remember going on speaking before the Charlton game on Radio Derby, and it was we're in a relegation battle.
That was grim, wasn't it? That was grim.
It was awful. So from December going all the way up to now, and you see with 3 points off the playoffs, you would have never ever expected that. Now, there's a little bit of debate I've seen flying around that some people saying, it's all down to Wayne Rooney. Now, I'm not having that. Yes, he's played a big factor, definitely. There's no doubt about that. But there's also Philip Cocu, who's brought these young lads through who are shining, and I think he's done this absolutely spot on, because he brought Max Bird in against Scunthorpe. Obviously, we know the sad situation that happened then. and Max got taken off.
Yeah.
But he's come back into the side again, and he's been fantastic. Jason Knight, another one, came in against West Brom, I believe it was. Yeah, looked an all right player, but I think Cocu described him as needs to learn how to use his energy.
Well, he came off for the last few minutes against Huddersfield, didn't he? And he was sort of running around like someone who was just buzzing to be on the pitch, didn't he? Just so happy and stuff. But yeah, I mean,
took him out, brought him back in, has made an impact. Yeah. So I just the Louie Sibley one for me. I always thought I was a bit of a conspiracy theorist regarding Louie Sibley, because everybody who watched the academy could see his talent. Everybody knew who he was. They know what it was all about. But for some reason, he wasn't being brought forward, and yet these other players were. And someone like Morgan Whittaker as well. Again, he's performed well in the academy, but that jump to the first team is maybe not quite there yet. But with Louie Sibley, I was a bit like maybe a conspiracy theorist. I was sort of like thinking, what we're actually trying to do is keep him out of the limelight.
Yeah.
And stop clubs from going in January, going, oh, they're Derby are out of pocket. We'll have.
I see what you mean. I see what you mean. Like sort of keeping him out, and then I think, to be honest, I think you just got to take that. I think, haven't you?
Yeah.
You just got to. If clubs are circling, then it's a. I use the term win-win very loosely. It's not a win-win if a player gets sold, but you've either got a player who's performing or a player who could be sold for millions, and that will help a club like Derby, who are, we're in 13th season in the Championship.
Yeah, of course.
And who will always need to perhaps sell a player every 1 or 2 seasons just to, sort of beef that bank balance up a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think I can understand what you're saying. Yeah, keep him away from January, which is a notoriously tricky market sometimes, isn't it? Where clubs do like to poach players on the cheap.
Yeah. And that was the thing for me for why maybe he kept Sibley out for so long, because he's come in and every game he's played him, he's been great. So yeah, Louie Sibley definitely one for the future. But the thing is as well, obviously with what you were saying about, are we going to run the clubs that does sells and has to sell a player to? I know Mel's got this sort of idea that he wants to produce these academy players, but surely he's got to find that balance. We can't just go, for instance, say someone came in for like Louie Sibley and went, oh yeah, we'll give you 20 million, and then on the same window someone went, right, we'll give you another 30 million for Max Bird. Is Mel going to go, yeah, we'll take them? All of a sudden then we're in the sort of similar situation where, okay, so we've lost 2 of our best academy players, potentially 2 of our best players in the squad. Now we're going to go buy someone else. My only fear is if he's going to do that, we're going to maintain ourselves in the Championship, because you're not necessarily going to get that quality that you're losing. You know what I mean? Do you understand? He's got to get that balance right.
I think it all depends on where you are in the table. If you are going for the play, I would expect Derby on this form, if they can keep the sort of similar squad. I mean, we've not even done with this season yet, and anything can happen. But if we're talking about, let's assume that we push for the playoffs, we fall just short, but we have a really good, strong end to the season. Yeah. And that's why I think that's important, because we don't know when the next season is going to start. I think Paul Warren said in The Athletic the other day that he thinks it could be towards the end of August, sort of September time. So if you get a good run going, you break for 4 or 5 weeks, you come back, it's like the season's not even finished. So then you get back on it again, don't you? And if you go into next season with a similar squad and a good set of momentum, if we can put together 2 halves of what we've just witnessed from December onwards, that's, I'd like to think that will put us in the playoffs, if not further. So it all depends on, if I was a team like Hull and I have these players coming through or at the bottom struggling, I'd be thinking, we're going to have to sell these lads for 2 or 3 million. I genuinely think we're in a position now where we won't have to, because we're in a position where we're going to be challenging. Yeah. Those players are going to want to stay with us. Yeah. If we get a couple of seasons out of them, and if we don't get up, you might get into a situation where you think they want to play for a Premier League club.
Yeah, you get the Jeff Hendrick situation, don't you?
Exactly. Yeah, precisely. So I think we're going to see. I think we're going to see a lot of them for the next 18 months, 2 years, certainly. I mean, it does sound a bit flippant, to be fair, because who knows what's going to happen. But I don't think there's any immediate sort of scenario where they leave.
No.
I mean, I know you see the typical rumours coming out, so and so. top clubs are keeping their eye on him. Well, I mean, if they weren't keeping their eye on him, then they wouldn't be doing their job, would be the scouts. So it's obvious.
Exactly, yeah. So we'll move on then. We'll get some questions and some comments from our listeners then. So first one's from Lucy Hackett. She says, "Hi Sam and Richard, hope you're well. The football is back and so are Derby. Incredible stuff from Sibs today. What a star player he is. Glad to see us win. A sloppy goal to concede in injury time, but on the other hand, we got 3 points. Some incredible goals by Sibs today as well. The future is bright. Let's keep up the good work and try to win the remaining games. That would be lovely. Come on, you Rams." Next is... Vera Das on Facebook says, "Well done, Derby." Jan Linander says, "A very good performance." Mark Andrew Coots asks, "You're probably going to already discuss this, but I think Cocu ball will suit the return to football. We don't play with much tempo and like to slowly build up to score goals. So Cocu ball is just a thing we're in with a good chance." What do you think about that? Cocu ball, it's not, he's not the quickest, is it? Would it, we saw today that obviously it did suit us perhaps playing a little bit of a slowed down game. At times I was sort of screaming out for a bit more tempo. Yeah. But do you think that way is going to suit us until we get, match fit, if you like?
I think so. I think it's also about playing against your opposition, isn't it? I think in a situation like today, you don't want to be caught on the hop and be counted on.
No.
So if you slow, patient, build-up play also means you're in a good sort of position when they do transition and try and counter you if you give the ball away.
Yeah.
If you put too many men forward and you're in a position where they counter quickly, then obviously you need to make sure that you've got the men back. But I also think as well that excuse me, it's interesting because we've seen slow, we've seen fast. Derby have different strings to their bow, which is vitally important.
Yeah.
So I'm really, really impressed at the different sort of array of sort of systems that Cocu has actually, to be honest, because he seems to have a situation now where you've got someone like Louie Sibley and you're thinking, my formation and tactics hasn't really gone out the window, but we've now got a kid in here who's fantastic. We need to play to his strengths.
Yeah.
So it's had to adapt his system to suit Louie. Again, that's another thing you've got to think of. So, I mean, yeah, I was impressed even with the slower sort of formation, the slower pace to the game. Even though it was a bit slower, I think we still moved it. Which sounds a bit paradoxical, but because we had players close to each other, it was still going in and out. And
yeah, because I think we did. You look at that first goal, and we did play a lot of passing. There was a lot of possession, sort of going nowhere. But then, bang, like that, Jaden Bogle switched it on, tempo up in Sibley, and then obviously goal. So yeah, I think he's right. What you're saying, it is going to suit us, and like you say, we can adapt, our style to basically which team. And again, that's for me. That's what Cocu brings. Is years of experience of management playing. There's a reason why he was a top class player, and there's a reason why he was considered a great manager as well. So, is he your man? Can he take us? Is he the one to take us to the Premier League?
I mean, to be honest, we've been now. I mean, that question's been asked so many times in the last few years. I don't know what to say anymore. Do I? You feel like just saying, well, if we could keep a manager for a full season, and then the one after that, it'd be a start.
Yeah, I think that is the starting point. Into it is being able to maintain your manager, and I think that's where Mel has got to be a bit savvy as well. And if a manager, if a club does come poaching him, he's got to put his foot down. So you're not having him. But I think Cocu, though, he seems to really like it here, and I think he can see the project, and I think that's what makes him tick is that project is this academy that we've got, and I think I do. For me, I do think he'll be the one that I've always said it. Even when we signed him, even when we're going through the shitstorm at the start of the season, I've always thought he will turn this around because he'll be given time, something that he's not been given, that any other manager's really been given.
Well, because you've seen managers like Graham Potter come in at Swansea, haven't you, and then get poached after a year.
Yeah.
But I know what you mean with Cocu. This seems like he is firmly sort of. It feels like he's embedded himself into the club and the culture, and he really wants to make it his project, like you say, from the academy. It feels like he really has sort of ingrained himself into the way the club works, which is encouraging, isn't it?
Definitely.
Because you don't want a situation where a manager comes in and you both kind of know that you'd be using each other as a stepping stone, one to get into the Prem, or with one to get into a bigger club or a Premier League club or whatever.
Yeah.
So this does feel like Cocu's here for the long term. And did he sign like a 4-year deal when he signed up? I know they don't tend to mean anything anymore, but
yeah,
I'm pretty sure it was a 4.
When a manager signs a 4-year deal, you sort of think, well, you'd like to think, that they're in there for the long, because you don't really get 4-year deals very often anymore. And it wouldn't surprise me neither if, say, for instance, we got promoted this season and we got to the Premier League. It wouldn't surprise me if all of a sudden Mel came and went, right, I want you to extend that contract to yours. I genuinely wouldn't be surprised by that, to be honest, which is a risk, because obviously he'd be going into the Premier League and, potentially Mel might have to suffer relegation. But obviously it's risk and reward, isn't it, really?
But if you've got a situation where you even if you're not in the Premier League, it doesn't mean your club's struggling. Look at teams like Burnley and other teams who are sort of like, teams who come up and then go down, up and down, but their model stays the same. They don't go into debt. They also don't spend a lot of money. But what we do is they have a club structure that is secure.
Yeah.
And a long-term model, which the end goal might be whatever, but a relegation or here or two doesn't massively put a spanner in the works.
No, of course not.
So what you need first is you need to. I mean, look at the classic where we got promoted under Billy Davis.
Yeah,
that was a classic example of quite literally going up too soon. But you need to spend 2 or 3 years putting a proper model in place and a structure and a pathway for young players, a proper transfer recruitment strategy.
Yeah.
And that's what. But again, the problem with the Championship is the financial landscape, where clubs are in debt, clubs are paying out so much money to try and get to the Premier League. We don't have the chance to always sort of have a bit of stability, but given the Lampard, Rowett, Clement stuff we've been through the last few years, I think, and Pearson, McLaren, the list goes on, doesn't it?
Yeah,
we're just desperate to have a little bit of security and stability.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm just crying out for that stability and a bit of consistency as well. I know managers don't tend to stay in jobs very long at the moment, but I'd like to see it. I'd like to see what a manager given time can do. And
again, yeah, exactly. And it's not always Mel. It's not always a club.
No.
Rowett got taken by Stoke. Lampard got taken by Chelsea. It's not always a situation where it's a managerial hot seat is quite literally a hot seat. It's not always the chairman saying, you're sacked. It's teams coming in for managers. Yeah,
exactly. So Sports Weekly podcast say, didn't know about Louie Sibley before today, but based on this game alone, he is going to be some player. Yes, we all know that, don't we?
Which one was he?
I can't remember. I don't know.
Yeah, I got remember either.
Roy Gibson says, not only a great result with our new star, but I like the style of football we are playing. Sibley added a few million worth into the club today, but can we hang on to him? Is this what Mel Morris thinks of as the Derby way? It's certainly Philip's Dutch way. I like that comment, Philip's Dutch way. And Sonny, who commented to you when you put out about the questions, he says, if we have to have points deduction due to FFP, would you rather take the points hit this season or start next season on a negative points level, even if this meant missing out on the playoffs if we got 6th this season? I'm going to let you answer that one.
Interesting that, because I think now we've probably got a sufficient sort of deficit between or gap between the relegation zone now, where if we did take a points deduction, we probably wouldn't be putting any sort of major uncertainty. But I think that the last we heard, Telegraph, was that the EFL are still waiting to set a date for the hearing.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sort of privy to that information as much as someone like Nico is, but that's what I read and heard the other day. I think did they just make a decision on Macclesfield yesterday?
Yeah, they doctored him 2 more points, didn't they?
Did they? I think 3 or 4 or whatever.
Birmingham had their punishment the other day, which was sort of like a bit of a slap on the wrist, weren't it?
That's it. They were reprimanded, weren't they?
Yeah.
They had a financial, but their charge was for failing to adhere to a business plan, which I think is a bit different to ours. So I think in terms of outstanding cases that EFL have got, they've obviously got rid of done Blues. They've got Macclesfield. They've got Wednesday and us left, I think, haven't they? Is it just Sheffield Wednesday and us?
Yes, it is, yeah. So they've been busy over this time.
yeah, exactly. See, I'm not quite sure when they're going to sort of come to an adjudication and to make a decision. But I probably would prefer to I prefer to take the points this season, really. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because, I mean, if you asked me that question sort of last week, I'd have said, well, but after winning today, and if we go and win another 2 or 3 games, I'd be sort of thinking, well, let's take the points next season. Yeah,
exactly.
It just all depends, doesn't it?
I know it is a question. I mean, can you imagine? The thing is, though, what would be the Derby way? Is getting the playoffs, getting promoted without any fans there, then the EFL charging us and us not getting a punishment because they can't touch us because we're in the Premier League.
I said that to me, mate, to one of the lads at work. I said it'd just be so typical Derby, wouldn't it, to finally win the playoffs and not being allowed to watch it after so many years of playoff frustration.
I think that would be a bit. It would be ridiculous, wouldn't it? Would you take it though? Would you take going to the Premier League without actually, being able to be at Wembley?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. Actually, I've said that. I don't know. Mate.
If you're a Liverpool fan now, and obviously they look like they're going to win the league anyway, they've got to win one more game, haven't they? So if you're a Liverpool fan, how do you feel that you've not won a title in 30 years, and all of a sudden you can't be there to celebrate it?
I feel a bit different because if I had a season ticket or I've been to a few home games like before the lockdown, you'd be thinking, well, this is what it feels like. We're basically champions, so this is what it feels like. But with Derby, it's a bit different because, well, I mean, with Derby, it's a bit different, understatement of the century. just in terms of sort of like, we've gone from being complete, like also rans, 14, 15. We were seen to be 15th for the whole, and now all of a sudden it's like, well, it feels like a different season. It just feels really, really weird. Yeah,
I had that sort of this morning when I woke up before football's back, and you think it's not a new season. It's such a strange feeling. A couple more questions then. So
it's like a World Cup. It's like a World Cup, but worse.
Yes, exactly.
It's like games on at stupid times of the day.
Yes.
But instead of sort of Brazil versus Germany, it's like, Colchester versus Northampton or whatever it was.
Cheltenham, weren't it?
Cheltenham, that's it, yeah.
So this is from he was my best man at my wedding. I knew he was going to do this, but he says, have you now left the null and void brigade? I was very much just getting null and void this season at the start of, this pandemic, because I thought, there's no way that it's going to be sorted, just by everything that's going on. But obviously now we're sort of gradually sorting things out. I'm quite happy to continue the season. Were you ever null and void? What was your sort of thoughts?
I never really sort of came to a decision. I kind of, whenever anybody asked me, I spent about 15 minutes lurching from one side to the other. I couldn't really make my mind up. I did think, to be fair, when this all first came about, I did think, because I could never envisage a situation where we end up playing games in June and July every other day without fans. It was just a really strange situation for me to think of that's how the season's going to end. After 3 months, we'll just like carry on like nothing's happened, and we might start the next season in September, and the transfer window will open in October. It was just really, really weird. But I wouldn't say I was in the null and void, but I probably just thought, let's just get this season over and done with. Because I have far too much going on. Let's just call it. let's just call it.
My nephew, he's questioned as well. James Smithy says, do you think the Sibley and Burden Knight will be able to keep their form up? And if so, do you think they would have benefited more with or without the break? Yeah, so they've obviously kept their form up. But yeah, that is an interesting question. That would these players have been able to keep this form up without the break, or do you think that break may have helped them a little bit?
There's kind of like two strands to it, isn't it? Because you could look on the one side and say, well, they're 17, 18, 19-year-old lads. They must be absolutely shattered.
Yeah.
And they probably could have done with a break. But if you're someone like Max Bird and Jason Knight, they were probably thinking, we're banging form here. Like, let's just, I want to keep playing because I'm enjoying it so much and stuff. But I think at the same time, you could never have too much. I know they only had sort of like a month or 6 weeks of actual on training work, or probably even less than that. But I think, 3 months of Koku sending them tactical drills on Zoom or whatever, or presentations, PowerPoints and stuff. That 3 months is valuable time for Koku to implement his methods on everybody.
Yeah,
that's why I think that time would have certainly been used wisely.
Definitely.
I don't know what you reckon, but yeah, I think there's two ways you can look at it.
Yeah, I think, the one thing not necessarily them players, but obviously we had Lawrence who picked up an injury against Blackburn. Holmes was struggling as well. So I think, the break did well just to get them back to fitness. And, I think that, that's good to have them guys, especially like Lawrence, who, today, no one's really mentioned Lawrence today.
That's funny. Yeah, I know. I feel
normally
like
it's
in the service.
regardless of the result. Normally it's Lawrence was awful.
Yeah, true.
You know what? I think he was sort of invisibly involved today. Going forward wise, a lot of it went down. A lot of it was going right through the middle. But yeah, he had a couple of good runs. He won that free kick for Waghorn in the first half, where Waghorn at the bar.
Surprised Rooney didn't. I know Waghorn at the bar, but I'm surprised Rooney didn't take that.
I know. Yeah, it was a weird one. That was
weird.
Didn't expect that. A couple more. Then Jason Ive says, that's harsh. He says, would you sell Lawrence for 7 million, Bogle or Holmes for 5 million? Has to be one of them. Which one would you sell?
Wait, sorry, say that again. But Bogle and Holmes for 5 million each, or 5 million on him?
5 million each, and Lawrence Lawrence for 7 million. Which one would you sell?
I'd probably sell Lawrence.
Would you?
Yeah, I'd probably sell Lawrence.
Harsh.
I know it is harsh. I know, and I'm not saying I want to sell Lawrence, by the way.
That's why I brought him up.
Yeah, and I'm just sort of saying it. If it's one of them, I'd sooner take the 7 million and bank that, and then stick Jason Knight back on the wing or something.
And then a couple more. Then last two from Lucy Hackett. She says, "Do you think Marriott will leave in the summer? And would you sign Ben Hamer on loan or a permanent deal?"
Marriott's an interesting one, isn't it? Because when he first came, I've said this a couple of times now, but when Cocu first arrived, he sort of spelled out, to my mind, he sort of almost spelled out the end for Marriott in many ways, because he kind of said, my formation is 4-3-3. I want a hold-up player, and that's what's led to sort of Martin's resurgence, because Cocu's very sort of formation and very tactical kind of setup relies on somebody to be the focal point of attack and have runners go like we've seen in the McLaren system.
Yeah.
I think Marriott, his injury situation doesn't help. Because if you're not even fit to play games and score, then you're struggling straight away.
The weird thing is, by the sounds of it, it's always he's had a groin injury. Why is it taking this long for him to get surgery on it? Has it been something they've not been able to pinpoint, or you would have thought that the amount of specialists that we've got at the club and obviously the specialists that they use, they may have been able to pinpoint it, but clearly he's had an ongoing issue with his groin, so obviously that's going to hinder his form, especially for someone like him who is that sort of player that plays on the shoulder and likes to get in behind. He's a natural goal scorer. We all know this, and it's you see some people saying, "Oh, we need to play him out. We need to play to his strength. He's a goal scorer." Yeah, but if that's not Cocu's way, he's not going to change it for one player.
And if he can't get, that's what I'm saying. If he can't get on the pitch, then you're even less likely to convince your manager that you're the man for him, kind of thing. I mean, look. Yeah,
I mean, we saw him play in a 2, didn't we? A couple of games this season against Middlesbrough, Forest.
Yes, I'm just trying to think which games were that, because I'm trying to think of the games I've seen when we played a 2 up front, because Whittaker started up front with Martin. It was
4-4-2 diamond, didn't we?
We have done the diamond a couple of times, yeah.
And he played well in them games, and you could see that he loved playing with a strike partner. But I remember as well, pre-season wise, after we played Bristol, I think it was Bristol, when Marriott scored, Cocu after said we might look at converting him to a number 10.
That's interesting. I missed that. I didn't hear that.
Oh, I was very glued into pre-season.
Well, I mean, I was for a bit. I mean, I remember staying up to watch that Bristol City match. We got rained off.
I was in my bed watching it on my phone, falling asleep, and then I was like, oh. But yeah, no, he did mention obviously the likes of Marriott moving him to potentially being a 10 and trying to fill a 10 role. But again, when you've got Holmes that can play there, Lawrence that can play there, Rooney that can play there, Sibley now that can play there, he just doesn't fit. So whether he stays or goes in the summer, it's with him being injured as well. Who's again, is someone going to take a gamble on him? But what I will say about Marriott, if you put him in the right team, he will find you goals all day. And
exactly. He's a very good player. Look, he's a great player. I mean, look at that goal he scored against Bristol City earlier on this season. He's got quality coming out of his boots, hasn't he? He's obviously a very, very good player. but sometimes players just aren't right for the system, are they? I mean, it's almost a bit like it's almost like when Darren Bent came in on loan. He scored a lot of goals, but he never quite tended to fit that sort of. He was another player like Marriott who prefers to run the channels and get on the shoulder, get in behind, and stretch defenses. What Koku's system relies on is midfield domination.
Yeah.
And players coming two in the middle, number 10s. When you're trying to force it to players who are running in behind and you haven't got the players who can do that, you give the ball away, excuse me, and they're on the back foot.
Yeah.
So I think that's why Marriott, unfortunately, will never really suit Koku's style of play. And he seems to me to be too good a player to be sat on a bench.
Yeah, no, definitely. Because I mean, even with Waghorn for me, he's not that holding. He can play the holding role, but he just doesn't play it as well as Martin. He doesn't drop as deep as Martin. And to be honest, I prefer him on the right wing because he tracks back and helps Bogle out defensively. Whereas today I felt we were missing that, especially on the left-hand side. We were missing because Holmes, whether it's fitness, whatever, he just didn't have the legs or the energy to get back. But again, he criticises him before. I'm not criticising Holmes. Obviously, he's been out longer than the 104 days. He's been out since the Huddersfield game, and we all know what a talent he is. But again, I think he's someone that potentially relies on his match fitness. Once his fitness is up at his peak, then you've got the Dwayne Holmes that we saw against Middlesbrough away, Swansea away. That player there that bags of energy, runs at players. And I just don't think the wing suits Holmes. He's more. He prefers playing in the centre.
He's much more technical, much more creative, isn't he? And
definitely.
I think so too. Which is why I was surprised when the team sheet came out, because we saw, and I sort of, me and a couple of friends were saying, who are the wingers? And it was only until we saw them lining up, and I realised, this is how we're going. But I was trying to figure out who's playing where. Is Waghorn Waghorn on the wing, or is he up front, or what? What's going on? So.
And then Hamer as well. Obviously, it was a Telegraph that reported, weren't it, that we could potentially be in for a loan for him or try and get it again. And
I think we need a new goalkeeper regardless of what happens. This summer, I think Roos is going sort of going the same way that other players have gone, in that they make a big cock up in a big game, and they kind of get tarred with that, don't they, for the rest of their career? Yeah,
it's a bit. I do, to be honest. I mean, with Hamer and Roos, you could toss a coin of who you're going to put in, because
they're one of the same, aren't they? Like, they're not. There's not one of them has sort of made a case to say I'm the number one.
No, I mean, there was an incident in the first half. I think it was a corner. Hamer came to catch it, punch it. He totally missed it.
Yeah.
But then 2 minutes later, he comes out and he punches the corner clear. So it's just, there's not that consistency. So it is tough when, with the goalkeeper situation. But for me, I don't think Hamer's. I wouldn't go out and buy him on a permanent or loan him again, to be honest. No disrespect to him, obviously, but I just think we need someone. If we've got ambitions of being in the Premier League, then we need a better keeper.
Hamer seemed to me to be a bit of a panic buy after Carson had obviously made clear his desire to leave, or whether Cocker decided. He came in on deadline day with Patterson, didn't he? I think.
Yes, he did, and I think.
And it was obviously we're just trying to fill a position. So again, it's no. I think he's a perfectly competent. I think he's a good goalkeeper. I think he's obviously he's good at what he does, and I think with Roos though, I mean, as kind of what it is, he played very well when he came into the side in the new year, and he played really well to get us to the playoff final. But then obviously we had the Fulham debacle, didn't we? I mean, in November time.
I think that
was like a turning point, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I think it was the build-up. I think of pressure from every week in, week out. It was all fans, because let's be honest. Players who are on social media will look at social media, and he was getting tagged left, right, and centre from our fans. Oh, you shit and all this. Well, he dropped a bollock at Wembley. It happens, but people forget quickly how well he played to get us to Wembley, and he made 2 brilliant saves in the last 2 or 3 minutes against Leeds in the playoff semi-final.
Yeah.
Get us there, and they forget about that. then all of a sudden he's tarnished with the same brush. So any mistake, any little thing he may have been able to do better, it gets escalated. Because I wouldn't say he's a bad keeper. He's a very good shot stopper, very good. And I know people go, well, that's their job. No, yes, it is their job, but he's really good at it. You know, if he was able to command his area, that's his issue. Commanding the area.
I heard someone say, because I heard someone say it was like a continental thing for goalkeepers to come out and punch the ball, but I don't know if that's true or not. I also had high hopes when Cocu came in, because obviously his compatriot, and Dutch backroom staff as well. I thought they might be able to have a serious impact on him and try and settle him in a little bit more to the number one role. I think perhaps it was quite a sort of a stratospheric rise, wasn't it, from multiple loans to here, there and everywhere to all of a sudden you're given the number one jersey and you're in now. And oh, by the way, you've got a new 3 or 4 year contract, so you're settled. Too much too soon, perhaps. I don't know.
But do you question the goalkeeping coach? Because we saw Carson go backwards after he was absolutely brilliant under Gary Rowett. And I can never pronounce his last name, but that goalkeeper coach was Pascal.
Oh, Zubahula.
Yeah.
That's it, the Swiss fella.
Yeah. Carson said he was probably the best coach he's ever had goalkeeping-wise.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And then obviously Given comes in, and we all of a sudden we see this demise of Scott Carson, where again, and his issue was coming out for crosses.
Yeah.
Now, yes, I used to play in goal, but I'm not trying to say I'm better or anything like that against Shay Given, who was obviously international goalkeeper, Premier League goalkeeper. But when I look back at him, he was never one for coming out for crosses, because down to his height, he's not going to win. He was small for a goalkeeper. So,
and also when you've got top class centre backs in front of you, invariably do you feel the need to have to come out and bail out your defenders or come and claim the ball and stuff?
Exactly. So maybe that has something to do with it, maybe not. I was quite surprised though, to be honest, that he stayed with the coaching team even though Lampard and the likes left. Maybe he thought that he wouldn't have much saying with Petr Cech. Obviously, I know he's not a goalkeeping coach, but Petr Cech being there, obviously,
is Cudicini at Chelsea?
Cudicini is the goalkeeping coach, isn't he? So
because there was a lot of talk about Given being linked with Chelsea shortly after Lampard had gone.
Yeah.
And Lampard brought Given in, didn't he?
He did, yeah.
Because did Rowett take someone to Stoke with him, or I can't remember what happened. But I forget now. But I think the issue with Carson was his distribution, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Lampard wanted to get the ball out quick, with his feet. I think I went to go and watch the Northampton game, the replay at Pride Park, and I thought Roos, I know some of the opposition, all the rest of it, but when Roos put the ball on the floor, he was quite confident.
He's a footballer,
spraying the ball out of his feet. Yeah. He was fairly happy to do that, but the crowd got a little bit, on edge.
He has got a tendency to do that to you. I remember the home leg where he almost got caught out and ended up rolling it past the defender. But he's footballing wise, Roos is very good. I don't think Hamer is. Hamer's more. He's an old school keeper like Scott Carson is, I suppose. They're not confident with their feet. In playing.
Credit where it's due, though. He made a good save today, Hamer.
Very good save.
And there wasn't a great deal he could have done about the second goal, I don't think.
No. Either goal really, it was not a fault for any of them.
No, and the first goal exactly, it was a good header. So I think the Hamer situations and the Bruce situations one to watch personally.
Yeah, it is. I actually thought we might see Roos back today. To be honest, it wouldn't have surprised me if we saw Roos back, just because I think because he'd had that break, because there's no fans in the stadium. I thought, Cocky might say, right, okay, come on. Now go and play. But for him to not be there sort of with me, I felt like, Cocky's definitely not fancying him now, is he?
Well, it might be in a situation where, Hamer he looks like a very animated person anyway.
Yeah.
But today he almost looked like, Cocky might have told him, it's a funny situation because you're sort of saying, why are you playing lone players when you've got 9 games left, develop our own. Matt Clark's an exception because he's a brilliant player. But I think with Hamer's interesting, isn't it? Because I can certainly understand the argument for playing Roos, because why would you, unless Cocu genuinely does rate Hamer sufficiently more than Roos to play a lone goalkeeper in the last few games. I mean, I can't sit here and say it was because, we've won the last three matches, haven't we? And we've played well. So I'm not going to sit here and say it's the wrong call, the wrong decision, and don't play a lone keeper. But obviously, Cocu rates Hamer high enough to carry on playing him. Yeah,
exactly, and that's where it is. That's, I guess, it just goes to show. Then I would assume that come the summer transfer window, we will be in for a goalkeeper.
I haven't seen too much of Henrik Ravers, I don't know what he's like as a goalkeeper.
He's another one that's a very good shot stopper, but I think he's just too young to be stepping up to the first team, and he's out of contract as well at the end of this season.
Is he? I didn't know that. And what about, is it Bradley Foster, the young lad?
Yeah, he's a big tall keeper, isn't he, in the under-19s?
He looked good against Dortmund at Pride Park.
Yes,
I was impressed.
Yeah, I think, because you look at Jonathan Mitchell as well. Mitchell, what's happened to him? He was obviously touted as like the next best thing, but...
Yeah, I remember watching him when I was covering Burton last year. I watched him against Oxford when Burton lost 3-1, and he wasn't great.
No.
His distribution was pretty poor and didn't look solid. I think he might be out of contract this year, I think. So.
Yeah, I think he could be another one that's on his way. So goalkeeping situation, it's a tough one. It's definitely been the market. So, but hey, we'll soon see. That's all the questions done. So just finally then, before we end it, where do you think we're going to finish? Because I put a poll out on Twitter about 3 days ago saying, where do you think we'll finish? Either first to 6th, 7th to 15th, or 15th and below. And the majority, I think it was about 78%, said we're going to end mid-table. Where do you think?
I think we're going to finish mid-table, but in an ideal world, I think we finished top half. I'd be pleased with that after everything that's gone off this season and this change. I'd be quite pleased with that because, like I spoke about earlier, I think it gives us a really good base to then go forward and really challenge for next season. But to be honest, looking at the table as it is now, we're only what is it, 2 points off of playoffs now? 3 points off Preston at 6. I was looking at Blackburn then. No. But we're only 3 points off. So, we could easily go and bomb out the last 3 or 4 games against Albion and Leeds and Forest. You could conk out then, couldn't we? It might just be a couple of games too far, but I'd be happy with a 10th or 9th place finish. I think that'd be a really, really good, solid base, given everything that's happened this season, obviously. Losing your captain, losing... one of your top signings, Bielik, to injury as well.
Yeah, of course. The season we've had, it's just been to finish where if you potentially. I think Chris Coles asked the same question on Radio Derby yesterday to Ed, Ryan, and Steve.
Yeah.
And Ed said 8th. Ryan Conway said 10. How dare he?
Yeah.
And
we'll be having words.
We'll be having words there. But Nico, he said 9th. So we're looking in that sort of just outside the playoff mark. But I think my heart says we'll finish 6th. But I just think, I reckon we probably are going to miss out. And I'm going to go with Nico, and I reckon we'll finish 9th. But we'll soon see. We've got 8 games left now, and I think the most important thing we do in these next 3 games is try and pick up maximum points, because we've obviously got 3 against Millwall today. We've got Reading again, that not really playing for much, are they? We need to take 3 points off them. Is it Preston then?
Yes. So I mean, that's
potentially a 6-point game.
That Preston game's massive, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's absolutely massive. So we've got Reading at home next week. A 1 o'clock kickoff again. I don't quite know why. I don't know why they're doing that.
My dad had a bit of a stinker. I'm going to mention this actually. My dad, I was watching it and I texted him saying, "Oh, what a goal!" when Louie scored. And he rang me and says,
"No, he didn't. Oh, no, he didn't. No, he didn't."
He says, "What are you about?" He says, "It's 3 o'clock kickoff." And he went, "That's 1 o'clock." He was like, "Oh my God." You're like, "All right, I better log on, I know."
Well, my mum did something similar. She was faffing around trying to get Radio Derby on, and she sort of called me up at quarter to one, saying, "Oh, it's half time. I've missed it." And I said, "It doesn't start for another 15 minutes." She wouldn't appreciate you mentioning this, but it was. And she sort of on the FaceTime thing to me. I said, "Have a lie down." I said, "Have a lie down."
Oh dear. Yeah. So the 1 o'clock kickoff's confusing everyone. So we've got Reading next week. That's 1 o'clock. Who then is it? Actually, I did have the fixtures up, but they've gone away.
Preston the Wednesday afterwards. Away at a very strange 5 o'clock kickoff time. I'm not quite sure why they're doing that either.
5 o'clock on a Wednesday.
Yeah, it's very early, isn't it? It seems too early.
I hope I'm still working from home by then.
Yeah. You and me both.
I'm working overtime. I'm staying till about 6:30. I'll watch it on my laptop here. It's fine.
Yeah, but Forest and then Albion are two tough games, and then Brentford and Cardiff, which are two, and then Leeds. It doesn't get any easier, does it?
No, I think, and that's where your running is. You know, like I say, you get 3 points off Reading. You go into Preston. All of a sudden, I think you could be looking and going, beat these, we potentially could be in the top 6.
Yeah,
that becomes a massive game then, and then from there you go to Forest. You know, obviously Forest come to Pride Park, which that's going to be the weirdest game ever. You know, with no atmosphere, no fans, no nothing. It's going to be weird. For me though, that might play into our favour because we might not look at it as a local derby, but the team will look at it as just another game.
I don't know. I think Sibley will be up for that one as well.
Oh yeah, exactly. The academy lads will definitely want a piece of that, won't they? But
yeah, absolutely. But the thing is, you're hoping that you might play teams after you've played Brentford and Cardiff. You might play teams like Leeds. They'll probably be on the beach, and then Blues away last game of the season. They'll probably have nothing to play for. So, you know, you might get a couple of games there where you're playing teams that are kind of fed up, that have done their campaign kind of thing. So
yeah, I actually hope Leeds don't bottle it now, because if they do, it means they're going to, you know, like I say, they're not going to be on the beach when they come and play us if they've not. Because what are they now? I think there's something like is it 8 points clear of Fulham now. Win tomorrow against Cardiff, they're 11 points clear. They're almost over dry, aren't they? So
I think because of Brentford's win, they're 7 points clear of Fulham in third, and Albion are top. They're both on 71.
Yeah.
So they've got to play Cardiff tomorrow, and they'll be 10 points clear. So then it kind of you're home and driving, aren't you? Almost.
I you know, even if we don't get playoffs, I do think we'll have a big say in who will get playoffs. So I mean, imagine if we go and beat Preston, and Forest lose, and then we beat Forest. All of a sudden, we're above them.
Yeah. Well, we can dream, can't we? And I'm just glad we're back talking about football.
I know.
After the difficulties of the last few months. You know.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing. I mean, I've been trying to put out podcasts and stuff where it's been hard to find. I know, obviously, Steve Bloom pod, they've been putting them Rams Review pod, they've been putting out Blogcast, that's now back. So, and you were obviously on that the other day.
Yeah.
So it's nice to, again, like I say, to be talking about football again. Debating again, so you know, all things, and of course, I didn't forget to mention it, but you got a promotion as well, so congratulations on that.
Thank you very much, Simon. Yeah, cheers, mate. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
What does that entail now? Does that make your job slightly different now, or
it just means I'm sort of like qualified in law and properly qualified in media, in law and media law and stuff like that. So it just gives you a little bit more extra responsibility, which is nice. I mean, something nice to have come from lockdown, you know, for me personally. So I'm chuffed to bits, and thanks. I appreciate that, Simon. Thanks, mate.
No problem. Anyway, we'll call it a day there. It's been a great show. I'd love to have you back on again at some point. Anytime.
As free as a bird, mate. Free as a bird.
Brilliant. Anyway, guys, thank you guys for listening. I'm going to put this on YouTube if that's all right with you, Rich.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it'll be on YouTube. It'll also be on, obviously, iTunes, Spotify, all the major podcasting brands. Remember, if you're not following me, I'm at Ramswriter on Twitter. Richard, you are?
Richard Cusack, BM, CUSACK.
On Twitter. Remember, give us a follow. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening. Really appreciate it. And I shall see you next time. Come on, Derby.